Fantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be reviewing all the new evolutions that have come to North America and Europe on August 3rd or August 2nd of 2017. So late last night, because I published this article on the 3rd, Gung-Ho did release many new evolutions that are possibly exciting, but it generally opens up players to new pathings they can take, because a lot of these evolutions may be similar or on par with the existing alternative evolution, because a lot of the new awoken forms are competing with their ultimate evolution forms. So you may have some choices to make with these cards, and this article and video will hopefully guide you through the thought process of what I think is going to determine which evolution you should pursue. However, with that being said, what you decide to do will be based on your own individual monster box and requirements, just because not everyone has the exact same scenario as you do. Maybe a certain card may have stronger fitting and usability for your monster box, even if it is the less ideal choice. Now, with that out of the way, the Puzzle & Dragons does have one of the more complex evolution trees for a video game. Like, they have obviously the basic evolutions, but they have like branched evolutions. They have evolutions of evolutions. I remember when Sakuya first came out, it was convoluted and crazy. We have awoken, we have reincarnated, and generally speaking, a reincarnated evolution is going to be the strongest form a card can obtain. This is because they have 1,000 weighted stats. They have generally the strongest leader skill. They usually have the upgraded active skill, but they do have to go through the awoken reincarnated process beforehand. So until the card gets that reincarnated state, the awoken form may or may not be more competitive or viable compared to the ultimate evolutions, because ultimate evolutions are basically several different evolutions in a row that don't actually result in a reincarnated form. These evolutions do not change the base active skill. They do improve the base stats a little bit, but nowhere near to the amount of a reincarnated card. So basically, awoken evolution versus ultimate evolution, they can be on par, or one can be stronger than the other. So in addition to all that, split evolutions occur when a monster has basically a split evolution path, but neither of them go to an awoken form. Basically, one of them tends to be a better sub and one's a better leader, but generally speaking, one of them may often be superior, because for the most part, Pantheon cards don't really comprise strong leaders outside of a couple of niche examples. So, in this new update, we had reincarnated Isis, reincarnated Karen, split Famiel, split Ariel, split Hamals, awoken Krishna, Sarasvati, Ganesha, and Michael. And I'm going to be going through the pros and cons of each of them. So, generally speaking, the pros and cons will be reflective of their other evolution path that is currently available, because that's what we really need to compare them against. We already own the card, and now it's a matter of choosing which evolution is most suitable for our monster box. So, reincarnate Isis. The pros are basically it's a reincarnated evolution. You have the high weighted stats, you have an extra half a second of movement time from a time extend awakening. There is a stronger leader skill, as well as being better in every way unless it is used as a raw dragon sub. In terms of cons, there's no wood subtyping, and it's challenging to use it on a raw dragon team, because generally speaking, Isis has been a relatively core or staple sub for raw dragon teams, and this is because she covers water and wood. And if you remove that wood subtyping, your team falls apart. You have to try and find something else to cover wood, which may be challenging. So basically, for the most part, if you have a raw dragon team, you may want to keep your Isis the way it is. However, if you do not have raw dragon, generally speaking, reincarnate Isis will be the better choice in almost every scenario because of the superior stats, superior awakenings, and while the leader skill is stronger, it's not really worth pursuing because it's a lowish multiplier, it has an active skill clause, and relatively hard to achieve multiplier because you need multiple colors, so it's not really worthwhile. It's more so you have a better sub overall. Next is reincarnated Karen, and basically the pros of being reincarnated are similar. You have 1,000 weighted stats, but she gains a 7 combo awakening. There's a stronger leader skill, which is not that relevant. It has the wood subtyping, and you gain god typing again. However, in terms of cons, you do lose the water subtyping, which is very niche and situational, because only if you're a mono water team, you will be losing out 10% damage. Not that big of a deal in all honesty. You have to, and then in terms of other cons, it's really hard to use Karen efficiently. I should really close this window. For some reason, when I start recording, the traffic decides to like revamp their efforts to ruin my attempts to have a nice recording. But now it's very hot in here. Whew. So, in terms of cons, it's still very hard to use her efficiently because Karen just doesn't really fit in the meta at this point in time, even though 7 Combo Awakening does help. And that's the main draw of her. She has 7 Combo Awakening, but she does have Water Rose, so it can be challenging to make use of both of them. So it's an upgrade, and you should make this evolution in pretty much every single way, every single scenario, unless you need the don't have the resources available to re-max level her. Otherwise, make Reincarnated Karen 100% of the time, or 999.999. So split Famiel. So in terms of pros, they have plus 86 weighted stats compared to their other form, which makes them a better assist for skill inheritance. There is a 7 Combo Awakening, you do get skill bind resist, and there's a stronger but not relevant leader skill, as well as gaining 2,100 health. Now, this is important because for the most part, Famiel is used as an inherit on many teams, and by going for this evolution, you have a stronger assist because there are more weighted stats to transfer over. It's not that huge for the most part, but because 2,100 is based in health compared to the other form, you do have significantly more bulk to transfer over, and this could be crucial for you achieving a certain health threshold and advancing through different and challenging content. So, it is a small upgrade for that point, but if you don't use them as an assist on a water team, it makes absolutely no difference which evolution path you pursue, and you do lose a sub-attribute of light, and furthermore, you lose 430 recovery, which means they could be harder to use as a sub, because generally speaking, health I feel is a little more powerful overall than recovery. Recovery is a little more powerful than health overall because, generally speaking, you have enough health to meet certain health thresholds, and then it becomes a matter of healing up in time. But because you lose your 3 TPAs for a single 7 Combo Awakening, this is actually a DPS or damage loss for the most part. Split Aerial gains a 7 Combo Awakening, as well as gaining 2 Skill Bind Resists, as well as gaining 1,100 health at the cost of 240 recovery. There is a stronger leader skill, but it's not really relevant in all honesty, and I'll explain why. Because it is similar to Dark Athena, but much more restrictive. Losing a sub attribute, it still has the light sub attribute, but it lost the red sub attribute, I should say. But you lose 2 TPAs for a 7 Combo Awakening, which is on par with themselves. They both provide up to 100% bonus damage, so no real loss there, but it means you have to actually combo harder instead of just matching TPA and blasting through content. And the leader skill is not feasible, and the reason why the leader skill is not feasible is because you have to use physical cards, so you've just restricted your sub pool down to very little cards possible, and you need to match fire and light to trigger recovery, which is going to be very low on physical teams. So you're going to have a tough time stalling, you are going to have reasonably strong damage output, but you have a restrictive sub pool for the most part, so it is a better leader, but it's not relevant. Riel is a much stronger leader, but no one uses Riel, so who is going to use Ariel in all honesty? I can't really think of most people.
Fantastic follower alert. Wow!
And now we have Split Hamel as sub and Split Hamel as leader. So comparing the two against each other, we have the sub gaining 3 Row Awakenings, but on the downside, Row Awakenings are losing relevance. Dark Row teams are not very popular at this point in time, and Hamel may not necessarily solve this problem as a sub. In terms of the leader form, it has actually a potent leader skill. It's 144 times attack and 43.75% damage reduction, as well as gaining 1 time extent. No Rows, of course. But the cons are there's fewer Awakenings, although is Rows relevant? We don't know. As well as having leader skill being quite orb hungry. You need to match 3 dark combos, and one of those dark combos has to be a 5 orb 1 enhance in order to trigger the full multiplier and the damage mitigation component. And that is a very orb hungry leader skill, and it's very similar in my opinion to what the older Sarasvati was, except you have more multiplier, but you need more orbs to achieve it, which makes sense. But Sarasvati stacks rows and blows things up, but at least Hamel has damage mitigation, which means that preemptives are less dangerous and scary for the most part. So, in all honesty, I feel that the leader Hamel might be a better choice to make, mostly because you gain an interesting glass cannon style leader, as well as the time extend may be better than the rows because they have equal weighted stats. And now we come to Awoken Krishna. And to summarize it all, Awoken Krishna is very disappointing, but let's explore why. So in terms of pros, they're very short, as you can see. There is a stronger active skill, and they have a potentially for a higher maximum multiplier. However, it's far worse overall. You lose 3 enhanced Fire Orb Awakenings, which is kind of amazing for them. Their leader skill is more orb hungry than before. They lose the recovery benefit. You're restricted to attackers and devils, and you need to hit 4+ fire combos to deal more damage from a multiplier point of view. However, you cannot use TPA or Rose for maximum multiplier, because if you need to match 5 fire combos, which you do need for maximum multiplier, you have to match them in sets of 3. On a 6x5 board, you only can match exactly 5 fire combos with 15 orbs. You can't have more. Well, you could have more, they just get wasted. But by comparison to the other Krishna, if you had, say, 9 fire orbs, you make 3 combos, similar amounts of damage for both. But when you get 4 fire combos for Awoken Krishna, your multiplier is higher on paper, but in actuality, the other Krishna is hitting harder because you make 3 fire combos, but one of those is a row. And because that's a row, you're going to do much more damage. You have same durability, but you have much more recovery. You're not type restricted either. So this is why Awoken Krishna is a problematic card overall, because, well, it just doesn't do what you want them to do. Like, you're more orb hungry, you can't heal, you have restrictive typing. So in all honesty, I would keep your Krishna as the way it is. Don't change Krishna, because Krishna basically loses all his leadership potential. And one may argue that they do have maybe more merits as a sub, because they gain some TPA, but losing those 3 Fire Orb Awakenings can be annoying, because that was kind of what made Krishna very strong. With those Fire Orb Enhanced Awakenings, you guaranteed you had 100% Orb Enhanced, so you can stick Krishna on as a sub, and you'd have all your orbs come as enhanced. Yes, it makes it a little stronger as a sub from Awoken, but it's not really worthwhile, because there are generally better options for the most part. He's not reincarnated, you don't have 1,000 weighted stats, and while this base active skill is stronger, it's debatable how strong it really is, because you do generate a column of fire orbs, but if any of those were fire to begin with, you have diminishing returns overall. So I would stick with my original Krishna. I'm not going to change my Krishna. The only time I would is if I had a duplicate and I want to just have possibly an interesting active skill inherent. Awoken Sarasvati basically follows a similar path as Awoken Krishna, disappointing, but for many more reasons, because yes, there's a stronger active skill, yes, you can technically have a higher maximum multiplier while gaining a health multiplier, but the cons are you're worse overall, of course, but you lose your 3rd skill boost, and that was one of the most important aspects of Sarasvati. She had 3 skill boosts, great on farming teams, great in co-op, and just making sure that all your active skills came up in time. Awoken Sarasvati loses that, so you just lost one of your best defining features. Furthermore, this leader skill is more orb hungry. You need to have 4 and 5 combos to deal damage. But the thing is, Awoken Sarasvati at 3 water combos hits for only 45 times damage. Regular Sarasvati hits for 100 times damage at 3 water combos. Okay, this doesn't make sense. Yes, there's a health multiplier, but you're also type restricted. You need to be dragging an attacker to get damage and the health multiplier, so your cards available are definitely diminished. But the fact of the matter is, the other Sarasvati would hit so much harder, because yes, you have 100 times multiplier at 9 water orbs. When you get 12 water orbs, you still have 3 combos, but one of them is a row, and rows make explosive amounts of damage. So Sarasvati was one of the best glass cannon leaders, still is, for content where you don't have to worry about taking a hit or stalling for prolonged periods of time. So again, I would keep Sarasvati in her regular form because of the 3 skill boosts, the better leader skill, and there's no real merit to really pursuing Awoken Sarasvati until Reincarnated is released, and Reincarnated is actually good, so to speak. Now we go to Awoken Ganesha. And Awoken Ganesha's pros are that they have a powerful active skill that's slightly different. They'd make a 7x6 board, so now people can have 7x6 boards if you did not have one before. And you technically are a reasonable Yogg pairing. Now, the cons are you lose your Golden Experience Leader skill, which is a huge deal because their Golden Experience Leader skill was perhaps their best defining feature. Being able to control how much rank experience you gain from a dungeon is huge. You can rank up more often, you can time your rank ups better for stamina refills, and if you only own one Ganesha, I strongly suggest you do not make Awoken Ganesha under any circumstance. It's just like, you basically are taking one of the most valuable leaders in the game and making something that's mediocre at best. Just don't. However, if you have a duplicate Ganesha, go for Awoken, because now you have diversity. Because the diversity is that you have a different active skill. You have, obviously, that one turn of damage void completely, so you save yourself from any execution hit. But you also now, instead of enhancing orbs, you unlock orbs. So, for the most part, a lot of endgame leaders don't need the orb enhancement. They generally do more than enough damage. And being able to unlock orbs is a big deal, because now you can get rid of all those pesky mechanics. Say there's lock jammers, lock poisons, you can remove them safely. So it is nice to have a different active skill in your pocket. But one thing to note is that Awoken Ganesha loses their bind immunity and loses one of their skill bind resists. So it can make them harder to use on certain teams. But the thing is, as a leader, they are interesting because they have that 7x6 board, but the problem is you need to have 3 light combos to deal damage and 5 for your full multiplier. And this is why Yogg pairing is reasonable. Obviously, double Yogg is far better in every way possible, but Ganesha Yogg is the budget poverty alternative for those who don't own Yogg. You will basically be able to have more damage control because 2 light combos doesn't obliterate everything in the world. And the 7x6 board should allow you to have enough light orbs most of the time. You can clear the board, and you should have enough light orbs remaining to at least hopefully match sets of 3, and then dealing reasonable amounts of damage. It's not the best team in the world, but it's reasonable overall. And last but not least, we have Awoken Michael. And Awoken Michael's pros are that his active skill now is a % maximum health heal, because on teams that have very high amounts of health, being able to heal for a % based can be very meaningful. You can push yourself back into certain health thresholds, or even heal up gigantic amounts of health. You gain a 7 combo awakening, which is just amazingly powerful, and you do trade out these 3 auto heals, which were kind of redundant for the most part. In terms of cons, you lose healer typing, which means you can't use them on Astaroth teams. And you also lose attacker typing, which means you can't use them on real teams. But if you don't use either of those teams, you should make Awoken Michael pretty much in every other scenario. So, let me know what you think about the new evolutions that have been released into Puzzle & Dragons. Which ones are you most excited for, or are you still waiting for other things to be released? Hint, hint, Erd for Dandy Skull. Let me know what you think about in the comments below. Hopefully you all have a mantastic day, and happy puzzling!